Last season, it was all about the new format. This time, it's all about new cars. Home soil for this legendary manufacturer will make a win important as we get ready to watch round one of the Porsche Owners Club Series. You'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and I'll be joined later by former driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes, our director, Christian Duploy, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. The Nurburgring's GP course will be a good test for these Porsches, but let's get a closer look at it with our lap guide. Welcome to the Nurburgring. Often overshadowed by its older, bigger brother, the Nordschleife, the Grand Prix course has actually accrued quite a bit of history itself. This modern circuit was built in the early 80s as a replacement for the lesser-known Southern Loop. And while it was updated and extended in 2002, it stayed roughly 3 miles in length throughout its history. However, the addition of the Mercedes Arena brought about a total of 6 different layouts to choose from, with the longest including 16 turns. Though not as fearsome as the Ring, it's technically challenging and carries its own fair share of elevation change. Plus, the types of corners come in a wide variety, ranging from the heavy braking into the sharp hairpin of the first turn, to the swift Schumacher S, which is still not quite flat out in a lot of modern cars. Passing can sometimes come at a premium, and drivers are often forced to get creative if they find themselves stuck behind a competitor. But the difficulty that elicits mistakes means that patience can pay off for those who stay diligent. While Formula One raced here on and off for a few decades, it now mainly hosts GT and touring car racing, along with some lower-tier open-wheel series. In the end, race fans certainly shouldn't overlook the importance of this German circuit. While it may not carry the fame of its counterpart, it holds up well and helps keep this worldwide phenomenon relevant to modern racing. Obviously, the Nordschleife is a little bit more famous and grabs more attention, but since the early 80s, this place has been on the map as well. So you can see we're running the BES WEC version of the layout. So it's going to be a little bit of a quicker final chicane that they're dealing with compared to what you see with Formula One. But honestly, places to worry about is going to be the Yokohama curve, or sometimes called the Haug hook there at the start of the lap. Very good place to pass. And then, of course, as we mentioned, the chicane at the end of the lap at 14 and 15 sees good opportunities to try and attack and get by. Otherwise, it is somewhat difficult to try and make passes here. So track position probably going to be key during this race. And before we do get to the racing, we want to take a moment to mention the sponsors of this series, which of course includes Porsche. There is no substitute. Find out more at Porsche.com. And Top Gun MG, helping financial advisors be the best of the best. Contact them today at TopGunMG.com. That's TopGunMG.com. So first race of the season, why don't we take a quick glance at what the drivers are going to be up against. We mentioned that they started with a new format last season. We're carrying that on once again, as it is going to be 40 minutes in length. This is the first of what will be a 12-round season. Actually, I believe it is 13. I'll double check on that just to make sure. But they have switched from the GTE cars to now running the Porsche GT3R. So that's the actual GT3 class Porsche that you see racing in things such as IMSA and WEC. And then, of course, they have the Porsche GT4 still here as they did last year. 2 spare cars waiting for them in the pit lane if they find themselves running into trouble. And hopefully won't have too many drivers that need to rely on that today, as this is a Formula One circuit, and there is thus a lot of runoff around the edges of many of the corners. So hopefully you won't be hitting anything, at least very easily, and not need to go in and take that spare car. We're in the midst of qualifying right now, and up in that GT3 class, Michael Bolton holding the quickest time, while we've got Christopher Marciniak, our fastest in the GT4s. And not too big of a surprise, Marciniak getting some good results at the end of last season. Now, Michael Bolton's going to be interesting because right now quicker than Jad Duncan. And Duncan was the one that was honestly well up there last season, especially towards the end. Bolton looking like he's going to try to take the fight to him. About a quarter of a second between P1 and P2 currently, as he's just maybe trying to prepare for a hot lap. So we take a look at John Momeyer sitting third out of the four in our GT4 class as well right now. About 8/10 off of Larry Haas, but I tell you what, Marciniak is got a huge gap up there at 1.5 seconds. Now we have a special guest with us here in the booth today. Ossian Puhaka has joined me up here. Ozzy, Porsche Owners Club, getting started on a new season, a fresh, clean slate. That's what every driver wants when they had a bad season, right? To be able to just start things over.
Yeah, it's what you want when you have a bad season under your belt, Joe. And thank you very much for welcoming me in. And it's also what you want when you've had a good season under your belt. You just want to make sure to let everybody know that it wasn't just a one-off, it wasn't just a fluke. You can and will do it again. It's going to be very interesting to watch these guys over at the Porsche Owners Club, because I'm familiar with the Finnish version of the series. We do sim racing with Porsche Owners Club in Finland as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how we can do a bit of a compare and contrast across the owners of these great automobiles across the world.
Yeah, very fervent fans, of course. Porsche Owners Club has been around for a long time now at this stage over here in North America. And they've put on their sim racing for a couple years now here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. But with 30 seconds left, as Garamani just crosses the line, he's starting his final lap. The only other driver that's still out there is sitting in pit lane. That's Del Toro. So we're just waiting to see if Garamani can move himself up from fourth on that GT4 grid as the clock ticks down to 0.
The click clock of the TikTok, or what was it called? Nurburgring circuit is going to be our venue tonight, and one of the circuits we are very familiar with, but it's a great track for racing as well, which we're going to see soon. But first of all, these qualifying results, it's a first qualifying session of the year, and it's always an exciting time speaking as a driver or as a commentator to sort of get a first glance of where these guys exactly line up.
Well, let's take a look at where they line up, because it looks like the session has ended. And Michael Bolton is your quickest today. It's going to be Jad Duncan starting in second next to him on the front row. Dylan Scott will begin in P3, with Matt Steele returning to the series. Glad to see him back. He'll be fourth. After that, Federico Del Toro has switched from the GT4s after he takes a championship up into the GT3s. He'll start from fifth. Dustin Heindel will be in P6, and then Marc Rondeau will be in seventh. Robert Leclerc starts eighth today, and then that takes us into our GT4 class on this field. For that one, as we mentioned, Chris Marciniak with a big gap up at the front, taking pole position in the Caymans, as Larry Haas will start from second, and you've got John Momeyer in third, and Jim Garamani starting fourth and last on the field here today. I'll be curious to see, Ozzy, what this race looks like, because my experience here, especially with sports cars, is that it seems like it can be a bit tough to pass sometimes.
It can be, Joe. It's a highly technical circuit in a lot of senses. They built this originally back in 1984 as a sort of replacement for Formula One and other top category cars, for which the old circuit, the 20-kilometer behemoth, was starting to become just a bit too fast and a bit too dangerous. And they've refined it a few times since as we get ready for the start, but I expect a lot of passing action, especially into turn number 1 and that hairpin down low before you head on upwards towards the Shumieses.
All right, pace car is in. They've split the classes up. Bolton has control of the field. They can only go at the wave of the green, so we wait for the stand, and there it is. Green flag is out, and they start to head down towards the Hal Cook. It is a very good start for third place. Dylan Scott already down to the inside, looking for a 3-wide entry into the hairpin. He is going to get to that apex first. An amazing start for that silver and white car, but a cut back from Michael Bolton. He takes the lead once again, as it looks like the GT4s have a good clean start.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, both classes went 3 wide right at the start. These guys are ready to race. And very impressive indeed, heading into the turn number 1. Cold tires, mind you, and it's a downhill braking. It's a downhill gradient heading into turn 1, and you take it on with cold tires with 2 cars around you going 3 wide, and still they managed an apex, which is kind of like a bottleneck. Has caused many accidents in other series, but of course, these guys are pros. Why would they have an accident?
They did a great job on the start of this one, so hopefully we'll be able to get through this first lap without any yellows. Meanwhile, as we watch the leaders head around the Goodyear hairpin, Bolton still leads Scott, who has still gained 1 position. We have to remember it was supposed to be Jad Duncan in P2, but just got a little bit swamped there at the beginning. He's still trying to hold off Matt Steele behind him as they come into Michelin Curve and then switches back into Warsteiner. Then they can pick up the pace once again.
Yep, downhill, and one of that corner just now, Warsteiner, one of the most annoying corners on the track from personal experience, because you can't really see the apex. It's a late apex, but it can be very difficult to sight. And it's one of the most important acceleration spots as well. If you get on the power nice and early, then you can get a great run heading into the chicane. But conversely, if you just miss the apex a little bit, it can be very frustrating to wait, as we have some great action for further positions here. Toro and Heindl, I do believe, heading towards turn number 1 on lap 2.
Del Toro, our champion of the Caymans last season, on the defense, coming down into the opening hairpin. Matt Steele in behind him, unable to get by this time. But that's Dustin Heindl rather behind him. Marc Rondeau is waiting as well, hoping that maybe he can sneak by in the midst of things. Now we're looking at Larry Haas, still in third, chasing on John Momeyer for that second place in the Cayman class as they enter the Mercedes arena.
Yep, and Haas really looking to make that overtake happen. Bit of a different line for these guys. The Cayman, of course, being a different class of machinery from the 992 GT3R. But it's not a slow car at all. That's often a misconception. People look at GT4 and they think they're slow cars, easy to handle. They are really, really not. They are still racing machines, and these guys are having to wrestle these racing machines around this beautiful circuit. Now, it's going to be interesting to see where exactly Haas is looking to make that overtake happen. From experience, turn number 1, it can be a very, very inviting overtaking spot, but it's often very difficult to get really that run from the last corner, time just right, and from the way it looked to me, Momeyer was able to just have a little bit better of knowledge of how the arena exactly goes. He was taking the inside line heading into turn number 3, whereas Haas was looking for a more swing around traditional racing line. But for turn number 3, it's really beneficial to hold on to that inside because of the gradient of the corner and how slippery that corner can be. It's weird to say that a tighter line into the corner is a better option, but it is also a very slippery corner, and it's one of the few places where you can really say that.
Meanwhile, we've come back to Dustin Heindl. Oh, and actually we jumped forward from them. This is Matt Steele going by Jad Duncan, and that's in a P3. Duncan not having a good start to things, was on the front row. He's already down to 4th. And we're only on lap 3 of this race. He is moving a bit backwards.
I'm curious to see whether that's just down to a conservative race strategy, trying to take it steady at the start, trying to find his rhythm before he lets it all out, so to speak, goes full throttle, or whether it's down to some fuel saving. We do have a fuel stop coming up in this race. But the quicker you can make that fuel stop, the better it will be, the shorter your pit stop will be, and you want to have it as late as possible. And being able to save that one lap can be very, very crucial towards the end. So I'm going to wait and see. what Duncan will be able to do here, sticking behind Steele. It's a very, very good draft, and he'll be hoping that Steele in turn will be able to hang on to the back of Bolton and Scott.
Well, he's found himself losing that track position. Can he maybe use that strategy, or will the car start to turn around on him later on in the race as he got it set up maybe a little bit more easier to find speed later on in the stint? We'll have to wait and see as they fly up towards the NGK chicane, hit the brakes, and try and slice through there as quickly as they can. They do have to watch out for the incident points in this, Ozzy. At 17, you get a drive-through penalty.
Yep, 17 incidents, and for those new to iRacing, an incident point is what you earn when you have, well, it sounds obvious when you have an incident, but there are different levels of incidents. You get a 1 incident point if you have an off track. You get 2 incident points if you have, let's say, a spin. And what classifies as a spin is basically when you move over 90 degrees against the direction where you're going. So if you have a proper spin, then you get 2 incident points, and for a severe contact with another car, you get 4 incident points. You also get incident points for less severe contacts with other cars, 1 and 2 respectively. That can happen. So for 17 incident points, that means 4 heavy contacts and an off track, and then you get a penalty. Or you have to be really, really fighting the car and having a lot of spins, or taking some very creative and excessive liberties with track limits. Let's put it that way. And there are a couple of spots here at Nurburgring where you can get an incident point. Here is one good example. The Michael Schumacher S. I call them the Schumi SS for clarity and for ease of pronunciation. But regardless, if you go too wide on the exit, you can get a very easy incident point. Same with the chicane proper, as they hurdle down here, take the flat out right kink, and then you come to the SS. That's an easy place to take an incident point as well. So you can definitely take incidents, but you might want to be conservative with them, at least early on, and looks like these guys are. I don't see really them. They are right on the edge of the track, but they are not going over the limit from what I can see so far.
Well, they might have to get pretty close to the limit, because you can see Dylan Scott is pushing Michael Bolton now, really applying some pressure for the race lead. What a great start of this race for Scott. Briefly into the lead of it, but had to give it right back. Now, is he biding his time to try and go by the 127? Or is he anxious to try and overtake and ready to pounce as soon as there is an opportunity? Once again, into the arena section where things slow down into here. Oh, we got that fight for second coming back. And I think, wasn't Haas
has passed Momai.
Yeah. Good eye. So that has changed positions. Larry up into P2 now. Momeyer not letting him go, it looks like.
No, not at all. So Haas just really was biding his time for a few laps, or maybe Momeyer has made a slight mistake. We can't be sure of that. Regardless, it looks like John Momeyer is not letting Haas run away with it, instead looking for that chance into turn number 1, looking to the inside, and who will brake later?
Looking to that inside line. Unfortunately for Momeyer, he couldn't get to the apex, and Haas is able to hold on to that P2. This is where the pass happened between the pair of them. Momeyer trying to defend down to the inside. Ooh, back to the racing line quite late, and maybe that put him a little bit too far off the racing line as he once again tries to stay on the defense, switching back. And is this going to be around the outside for Larry?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Beautiful job.
Yeah, that goes back to what I was saying earlier, Joe, about that corner. When you turn right, it can be really difficult to sight the apex, and at the same time, it's the most important exit on track. So Momeyer was going from the inside into that corner, whereas usually you take the outside line, the more natural racing line. So when you go from the inside, you are at a different position in track, and it can be very difficult to orient yourself in a blind corner like that. So it's very easy to lose the exit of the corner, lose sight of the exit and your acceleration spot. And as a result, Haas was able to take his chance, go around the outside. Very brave job as well, not going wide at all, utilizing the exit and making that move for second place. And we got other moves for other positions as well, potentially coming up. This one's not for second.
Yeah, this for the lead once again. Scott still putting immense pressure on the 127 as Dylan came in a few times last season, managed to come away with 2 victories, 2 second places. In fact, one of them in the endurance race that we had last season. But he's trying to start this one with a splash. He wants to see if he can kick it off with a win. Maybe he's thinking big picture this season, with it looking like he's got quite a bit of speed in the GT3R compared to the GTE car they were racing last year.
Yeah, a bit of a different specification with those cars. They're not far away from each other, but this GT3R using a more, let's say, a more modern specification for racing. And as a result of that, these drivers are going to have to get themselves used to it. Biggest difference, if I recall correctly, being the ABS being a thing once again, which affects your braking, which the GDE doesn't have, only traction control for those cars. Now John Momeyer here once again being pictured hanging on to the back of Haas, but I tell you what, with Haas having made that overtake, he's doing a great job of pulling a gap to Momeyer and looking very consistent with his lines each and every lap as we move back to the lead battle.
Yeah, I'm impressed that Momeyer's been holding on to this as well as he has. There's a big show of the nose, but I don't think he's there. Dylan Scott knows it. Doesn't try to tempt fate there into the hairpin on Michael Bolton. Ooh, he does get a good switchback here. Bolton slightly off the apex of turn 2, but he's not going to lose the position quite yet. I think Dylan's making him think twice about things, Ozzy.
Yeah, definitely. You can't really breathe easily when you have a car so close behind you, especially when Dylan Scott is able to stay there consistently and being a nuisance, not necessarily going for those overtakes just yet, but being a threat and not allowing Michael Bolton to really ease into his rhythm. Bolton is having to think, oh, do I have to defend each and every time? And doing a good job of not defending unnecessarily, so to speak. So not taking that inside line, that blocking line, as some people say, that defensive line into the corner unnecessarily, instead waiting and trusting on the fact that there's not going to be any dive bombs, obviously, and also knowing the gap very well, showing his experience, knowing that he doesn't have to defend if he's 3/10 away, but he might have to defend if he's 1.5 or 2/10 away. So it's a showcase of experience, but also a very impressive showcase of racecraft from Dylan Scott, being able to stay there, and I think at this point in time just learning from Michael Bolton as well. Where is Michael faster? Where is Michael potentially slower? Where is the chance where I can pounce? And I'm expecting Dylan not to leave it until the pit stops. If he gets a chance, he is gonna pass.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't seem like he's all that interested on trying to wait until then. And he's been doing this what seems like almost every lap, where he just kind of shows himself in the mirror. Although he's awful deep into there this time, he does make the apex into the first corner, but is trying to distract Michael Bolton as well as he can. Speaking of those pit stops, we are within the pit window at this stage. However, traditionally, these cars have seen drivers try to go a little long as they tend to be quicker on lighter fuel, and that was a bit wide there from the 08. The other thing, Ozzy, that could affect this is I believe they're starting to close in on some of the GT4 traffic. So I wonder if Dylan could be waiting for that.
That could be a potential possibility, although in a series such as this, they might not want to be as aggressive with the traffic comparatively to a series like IMSA, for example, where you try and utilize traffic to your advantage. When you are in an environment like this, where you race hard, yes, but you also know each other a little bit better. So you also try to make sure that in lap traffic situations, you potentially don't stray too hard from the norm, so to speak. But then again, you can be a little bit cheeky. You can be like, oh, let's see what I can do. And also, you know the people, so you also trust the traffic a little bit better. So we'll have to wait and see. That is a good point, and we get first bit of lap traffic coming up just here. Garmani not giving way into the chicane just yet, but will do so in the last corner.
Oh, some really heavy defense there from Michael Bolton. And that last hairpin, that has put them nose to tail. This is the closest we have seen the 08 to our leader coming down to the first corner since lap 1 off the start line. Is he going to be able to do it once again and get by and make it stick? He'll try it around the outside as opposed to what he started with. And it looks like the different maneuver has worked because he is now ahead as it switches into turn 2.
But let's see what Bolton can do. He is very great in this corner, turn number 3, taking it around the outside this time, a bit of a different approach. He is a fan of the tighter line usually, and look what this has done to the pack. They spent one corner, the SS behind the GD4 car, the Cayman, and as a result of that and the battling, Steele and Duncan are now right in the mix. So it has turned from a battle, a one-on-one, to now a, let's use some wrestling terms here, a fatal four-way.
Yeah, I was going to say a multi-fronted war here that he's going to have to fight. There's now a defense on the back for Bolton now that he's been overtaken. Not just the lead he could lose here, but maybe even second or a podium position. Chad Duncan at the back of this quartet as they swing through the Schumacher S's down towards Michelin Curve. Nobody close enough for an attack here.
Nope, not quite yet, and we might be in a slight bit of a holding pattern right now with this battle as the quartet gets together. Meanwhile, we move on further back to the pack because there's a great three-way here. Heindel, Rondeau, and Leclerc here battling together. And can you say triple threat? Okay, no more wrestling references. I will just say this. Heindel is so far doing a great job of holding on, but you can see Rondeau and Leclerc both looking to the inside, looking for the potential chances. And it's just awesome to see these guys really racing these cars. They are great cars and they are meant for racing, and this is exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, the GT3R, definitely one of the most popular of the Porsches on the iRacing service, if not potentially the most popular. Whoa, that was very late braking there from Rondeau. Thought for a second he might make some contact with Heindel, but he gets it woed up in time. This is all for 6th, 7th, and 8th down in the GT3 class, or up in the GT3 class, I should say, as that was a pretty hefty defense coming into turn 3. I don't think Dustin feels particularly safe there with the 11 poking and prodding.
No, not at all. And once again, they're utilizing that great traction the rear engine layout, the traditional Porsche rear engine layout gives to these drivers. And you can see it here at the exit of the slow corners, how early they are able to get on the throttle. Rondeau especially using that really well. Potential looking for a switchback to the inside here. It happens, but not quite close enough into the apex. Still has to hold on behind, but getting closer and closer every lap. And crucially, being able to pull Heindel away from the ideal racing line, which means that Heindel also will be there right in front of him into the next corner as well. He's able to compromise the exits of Heindel and using that to his advantage, poking, prodding, as you said, harassing a little bit and just looking to find that move. And he still has 21 minutes to do it.
I doubt this 7th place is going to be satisfactory for Marc Rondeau. Multiple podiums, including a win last season. So he's got some work to do to try to get back up towards the front. He's trying his best to find an opening, as once again, Dustin really covering the inside a bit late that time.
Yeah, and Leclerc, meanwhile, further back, making on the back of the shot, actually, in the purple and blue car, making a bit of a mistake, and the reason I was so concerned about that was that he got on top of the high curb at the exit of the chicane, as we see Momeyer here in the pit lane, making that mandatory pit stop at exactly halfway point. But yeah, Leclerc got over that high curb on the exit of the chicane, and the car can really easily bottom out on that one and sort of glide slash skateboard slash grind all the way into the last corner, and then there's nothing you can do but hold on to the right, usually towards the wall, because the exit of the Coca-Cola corner, the last corner, there's not much of a room at the exit of the corner, so it's a really treacherous position. But Leclerc doing a great job of just managing the situation, and as soon as he got his wheels back on the ground, he was able to fight his way out of that without losing too much time too.
So Momeyer, our only driver to have pitted so far out of the entire field, essentially broke it up perfectly in half, it looks like. Just going for the more mathematically simple strategy. It looks like more drivers going to try and go as long as they can. Oh, back to this fight as they go by some of that traffic, splitting on either side of Larry Haas, coming down to the apex, just getting there in time. Marc Rondeau prevents Leclerc from getting through. That was bravery.
That was a bit cheeky. Mika Häkkinen at Spa-Francorchamps in year 2000, I believe, against Michael Schumacher and Ricardo Zonta being in the middle. This time it was a different class of a car in the middle. And not quite able to pull that off was Leclerc, but was taking an opportunist move to the inside and now taking an equally opportunist move to make an early pit stop, trying to undercut Heindl and Rondeau. And as a result of that, maybe utilize that free space, get some faster laps in, and come back ahead in front of them. However, that is not the fastest strategy purely on paper. If we're talking purely on paper, Joe, and let's talk strategy just for a little bit, you want to stay out as long as you can.
Absolutely. We've seen that time after time. It usually is the quickest way if you're hitting optimum lap times. But honestly, I kind of like this out of Leclerc, because Heindl and Rondeau do seem to be squabbling up ahead of him, and they've been hitting traffic. So I think if Robert gets some really good laps, like you said, in clear air, what we're seeing on screen here, well, I guess this isn't the battle we were watching before, but for the lead rather. But still, point applies. Those drivers that are out there fighting each other should theoretically be slower than that 710.
Yeah, they should be. And it depends a lot on how the traffic goes and how everything else will go, and you're theoretically a bit slower with a higher fuel load as well. But if those guys start to battle, and even if they squabble, even if they compromise each other's lines, you can easily gain almost a second per lap, potentially even more on them. So it's gonna be a very nasty surprise in store for Heindl and Rondeau if they keep their fight going and suddenly find themselves fighting for 7th place instead of 6th if Leclerc manages to make that work. But yeah, here is the leading trio, I should say, right now, with Scott, Bolton and Steele still in the midst. Duncan, losing a bit of time in that lap traffic, now has about 2 seconds to make up in order to catch up to the podium battle.
I gotta say, I'm impressed with Scott and Bolton in all of this, because their qualifying times were about 0.3 of a second apart from one another. So not a huge gap, but significant. And yet race pace, I mean, they look dead even. Bolton got overtaken, but he's not falling away at all. He is still right with him.
Yeah, and there is sometimes you see drivers. Oh, let's see a replay of what happened to Larry Haas. He has lost a position, and here's here we see why, losing it at the exit of the Schumi SS, and that's a nasty hit into the wall. And yeah, that right rear corner, you're gonna need to see your local Porsche repair company for repair on that one. Sadly, that is Haas's race more or less done and dusted, which leaves us with Marcinak, Momeyer and Gaharmani fighting for positions in the Cayman category. But yeah, as you were saying, qualification and race pace sometimes very different, and Bolton now holding on to the back of Dylan Scott, who certainly seems to have the upper hand in terms of long stint pace.
Now, as we look at our leader in the GT4s, I know it says 40 plus seconds difference between himself and second, but Christopher has not pitted yet, while Momeyer has. Garamani actually just came in, and of course, we saw Larry Haas. He's waiting in pit lane for the tow to finish. You said take it to your Porsche dealer. Well, the good news is they do have those 2 spare cars waiting for him. So he'll get out the new tub and he'll hop back out on the track and brand new, fresh and clean Cayman GT4, but it'll be way behind because of the tow length that he had to wait here. Meanwhile, Marciniak, is he going to respond and take a pit stop? He might still have more time, and yeah, he is actually going to carry on.
Yeah, he is. Larry Haas, meanwhile, as you said, taking that brand new Cayman chassis and taking it back onto the track, and gonna be a bit precarious on those first couple of laps due to the cold tires. Here we see, meanwhile, Christopher Marciniak doing a great job out in the lead and still waiting and biding his time on that mandatory pit stop. And that gap to Momeyer, to me, seems to be extending each and every lap. About half a second to a second since the last time I looked. So using that lighter car to full advantage. Here we see Dustin Heindl. Let's see where he is able to come back out in comparison. He is gonna be ahead of both Rondeau and Leclerc. So it's status quo, more or less, in the back end of the GT3 pack.
It is, and unfortunately for Rob, back in that 710, his attempts to undercut them did not work. He had a couple seconds longer in his pit stall in comparison to Dustin and Mark, so it backfired on him instead, and he's now farther behind that pair. Meanwhile, jumping back to Scott and Bolton, still waiting for them to take a pit stop. We also still need Steele, Duncan, and Del Toro to come in. And again, this is a different car compared to last season, so we're still kind of seeing what the fuel mileage looks like. Is, well, fuel mileage for Bolton says pit now.
Yeah, and Bolton lost quite a bit of ground in that traffic because he had to wait the whole last chicane and then came into the pit lane, so that's gonna be a little bit frustrating for Michael Bolton. Well, traffic give it and traffic take it away, but let's see how Bolton's pit stop will be and where will he fan out, as it seems like the rest of the top 5, so the 4 cars remaining, are still gonna hold on in their stops, including this man, Dylan Scott, currently in the lead of that race. And I'm seeing this for the first time, by the way. I haven't been with you much in this series. You usually got a Joey here, and this time, well, this is the first time I'm seeing Dylan Scott's livery, is what I'm trying to say, but it's such an awesome livery that I can't quite get the words out of my mouth. It reminds me of some classic racing liveries, but with this distinctly modern touch that just makes it look so brilliant.
I love it. Yeah, as soon as this is the first time I've seen it, because I'm not sure if he's run with this one before, but it's really striking. And I love especially the colors on the darker side with that sort of magenta splashes on it. He continues on, still needs to take his pit stop. Bolton, by the way, has set the fastest lap of anybody in the fastest pit stop.
Been from the 77.
And the GT3s, Matt Steele, he wasn't quite on the podium. He's certainly not looking like he's going to be on it. If he keeps that up, that is going to be lost time.
Yeah, and I tell you, those teeth in front of that car are gonna be gritting after that one.
Without a doubt. The good old AO livery out there on this car, as well as, I believe, on Michael Bolton sporting that livery. So Scott will not pit this time. Duncan also stays out. Matt Steele is coming in. Kind of don't blame him after that spin. Obviously, they're not taking tires as it's too short of a pit stop, but it will help cool things down, reset him, as there we see the replay. And yeah, that looks like a typical Porsche spin there.
That looks like a typical racing spin as well. You come in too hot into the corner, the car just doesn't have grips. The tires are going to be saying, yeah, forget about it, buddy, you're going for a ride. after that one, just trying a little bit too hard into the corner, missing the apex a little bit, trying to go a bit faster. And you know, in racing, you're always chasing that next limit. You go after the limit, you get closer and closer and closer to the limit, and then you're at the limit, and then you realize it wasn't the limit at all, and you find the next limit, so to speak. But at some point, the real limit will come up to remind you that, hey, this is where the laws of physics are gonna go and say hello to you and remind you that there is, after all, a real concrete limit to how fast you can arrive into that corner. And well, still just found out where it lies.
So Steele has taken his stop. Del Toro has taken his stop. Now we just wait on Dylan Scott and Jad Duncan. Bolton was in P2 when he stopped. He's now waiting to see whether or not he'll cycle back into that or if he can overtake Dylan Scott and retake the top of the field here, considering he led from the pole at the beginning of this race. Doesn't want to give that one up. Until less than 10 minutes left on the clock. We'll get our answer soon. Dylan Scott is in.
Yep, coming into the pit lane. You gotta be very careful on the pit lane approach as well. The pit lane speed limit, I believe, 80 kilometers per hour. So that translates to roughly 50 miles an hour. And they're gonna have to brake nice and early, especially with these racing heated tires. And find your spot, don't overcook your braking. Into the pit lane, Dylan Scott will stop for a short amount of time. They'll try to fill in that racing fuel as quick as they can into the car. And meanwhile, Bolton heading towards the main straight, and he can be seen on the backdrop, but I believe it's gonna be Dylan Scott retaining the lead.
Gets out just in time. Bolton was actually half a second quicker in his pit stall, but it was still for naught. They are not technically in the lead right now. Jad Duncan still needs to serve his. Looking like he's very soft on those shoes today, as he's got great fuel mileage compared to all others. Nobody else has gone nearly this far out of the entire race, but there is our driver who effectively will be the leader once that pit stop happens, Dylan Scott.
Yep, and you can just see how beautiful his racing lines are. I took a note of that earlier, how close he is to the edge of the track approaching the corners. And then as he exits, he is able to find that consistency, that nice bit of rhythm. We are running on board with him right now. Once again here, getting to the apex. It's a bit of a double apex that he's taking, that so many people like to take in that corner. It's a long sweeping corner. Let's see what happens here into the Chumies. Yep, once again, use the curb on the right both times, not using the curb on the left on the apex. That's exactly what you want to do. You don't want to run that curb. It's a high curb and it can upset the car very easily. And it's just a so smooth line. Taking that early entry into the Warsteiner corner, and that is the safer approach, so to speak. You can take a wider, more sweeping approach there, but it can sometimes, actually quite often, be a risky way to get into that corner because of the lack of sight that I mentioned earlier. If you miss your turning point, then it's gonna be waiting forever, and instead of gaining time on the exit, you just lose a lot more.
Now, we do see Jad Duncan in his pit stall, and he is going to easily be overtaken by Scott and Bolton. Where is Steele? Steele is a long ways back, so easily back into P3 for the number 83. And that sets our order for the final 6 minutes of the race. Can anybody change it? Mark Rondeau wants to. He gets a good run out of the final hairpin up to the Hal Cook. Dustin Heindel, will he defend? So far, he's leaving the door open, has not come down across the track. Oh, it's a late defense against his rival. They don't make contact. And, oh, I thought he was going to get through, but it looks like Mark Rondeau just put a little too much throttle in it. He once again spins it.
Yep, getting away from that grippy line, and he spun it around, and as a result of that, losing time and losing sight of his rival, as you so eloquently put it. Heindel will be able to get away, and now he's under threat from Leclerc. Why is that? Because of that spin is gonna be overcooking his rear tires, which are gonna be doing brunt of the work. He's gonna have to cool those down. And meanwhile, Leclerc only 1.5 seconds away. And here is Larry Haas. Now remember Haas, making a short work of one Cayman chassis earlier, has now caught up to Garmani in that spare one.
So this is for position. In fact, the last podium step between these two, Garamani may not have had the pace of Haas, but he's kept it on the island. So now Larry has to do the hard work with 5 minutes left to go, maybe just a couple laps to try and get the overtake done here. How hard is Jim gonna fight it?
Well, I gonna have to say I doubt he's gonna have to fight it very hard, or he's gonna fight it very hard. You can see him on the inside taking the sort of defensive line, more of a token defensive line, really, as Haas is able to swing around the outside. You know, the pace difference between those two guys in this race quite substantial, so he wasn't gonna have a hope of defending it for last 5 minutes. So, you know, might as well sort of, well, not give it away for free, but not fight it too hard. And now he's gonna be in a very good school to see how Haas exactly is navigating around this track. I always say the best driving school in the world is about half a second behind a fast driver.
Yeah, exactly. Joey often touts that method as well, just taking notes if you get passed by someone quicker than you and try to pick up whatever you can.
Which I suppose is happening quite often for him.
Got to get the pot shots in while we can. Yeah. poor Joey had a couple technical issues, so Ozzy has come and hopped in for us. But we watched Garamani. He is still running. This has been a good race for the 163. Glad to see. It's looking like he should be able to at least get to the end, as we're almost there, honestly, at 3 minutes to go. Dylan Scott. Now, he has been caught slightly by Bolton. I'm checking the lap times here. And, yeah, it's been cut down by a little bit, but I don't think there's enough time here for the 127 unless he gets a mistake out of Dylan.
No, I don't think so. Dylan Scott has been pretty much mistake-free so far. Knocking on wood here, because, you know, commentators curse, it is an actual thing. We all have to believe in it. We've seen it so many times. And Michael Bolton, you can't blame him for not trying. I'll tell you this much. I saw the line heading out the last corner, absolutely utilizing everything and then some. Let's see his wheel work. Going down the first gear for the first corner, which is what you want to do. You want to get those revs high and you want to use all the engine braking you can. Now the line here, I've mentioned this so many times, so important. And you can see how he sort of turns into the corner before the corner starts, taking the middle line, a tighter approach. And that is what a lot of drivers want to use there, because the outside sort of, it drops away from you, and there's actually less grip if you try and take the wide swing entry into there. And it took me so long to learn that corner, to get that corner right, to really drive it into my thick head that no, you don't use all of the road in that entry. You have to take the middle line, no matter how wrong it feels. But finally getting into that sensation, and it's something I try to teach people whenever somebody tries to learn this track. Listen, you just have to take that middle lane. And the Schumi SS as well, a great challenge with any car, really. It's one of those fast series of corners you can't not love.
Yeah, and it's one of those tracks where, like I said at the start of the broadcast, it gets overshadowed by the Nordschleife. And yet, every time I've tried to drive the GP course, I have found it is so challenging. You said it really well before. This is a technical circuit.
It is exactly that. I believe when I have a stack of these old racing magazines, and I believe in the track guides for 1998 Formula 1 season, Mika Häkkinen described this track as medium. And he didn't mean it in a modern sense of mid. he meant as it is a medium speed track, medium downforce, pretty much medium everything, but also a real technical challenge due to some very subtle things like the gradient in that first corner, or how the second and third corners sort of try to run away from you, and all of those other things. But let's talk about that later on another occasion. Right now, I believe we have our leader in the final lap.
Yep, one to go here, and now you've got me hoping that someday we'll get to hear Mika Hakkinen using Gen Z terms. but Dylan Scott is
going YOLO in that corner.
Yeah. Scott focused forward to try and open this one out with a victory. Like I said, managed to get 2 of them last season in the middle of the season. So instead, he's trying to open his account with a win this time. Oh, and something has happened to Larry Haas. I think he's got a black flag. I wonder if that's incident limits. That is going to be a shame, because I think that's going to cost him 3rd place, as it'll be an automatic time penalty added post-race for the 266. Real unfortunate right down to the end. Meanwhile, the 08 just has a couple corners to go here as he approaches the chicane at the end of Ad Van Bogen. Just has to nail this and the Coca-Cola hairpin, and he is home free to a victory here on the opening event of the second season in 2025. Nice and smooth. Great job from 3rd on the grid, showing his race pace. Dylan Scott is your winner today.
Excellent performance from Dylan Scott, and you can see him being very happy about it, celebrating that victory with a couple of those snaking maneuvers ahead of Michael Bolton, who will be seeing those motions in the dreams, and I'm sure in his head as he's practicing for the next race. He now has a target, and he now has somebody to beat. So has Duncan, and so has Steele, as well as Del Toro and Heindl coming across the finish line.
Interesting fact for you, only Scott, Bolton, and Duncan changed positions in that race from the start to the finish. Everybody from 4th down to 8th in that GT3 class are where they gridded up today. So interesting little note. Meanwhile, Momeyer is officially 2nd. We wait for Haas to see what his time penalty looks like. But because Marciniak was the only GT4 still ahead of Dylan Scott, he gets an extra victory lap, essentially.
A little bit extra screen time for Christopher Marciniak, and I know that oftentimes the smaller class gets overshadowed by their big brother GD4s, by GD3s in this case, but just take a note of how quick Christopher Marciniak and how consistent he must have been, and how great and smooth his driving is in order to earn himself that 1 extra lap, taking it through the last corner, the last chicane, and then to the Coca-Cola corner, just nailing the apex here. No risks necessary whatsoever. Very smooth, very nice, driving just like from a professional lesson. And here he is taking the victory in the Porsche Cayman class. The GD4s flashing his lights as well is Christopher Marciniak for the first race of the season.
Wants to try and come back now that Del Toro is in a different class, see if he can come away with a championship this season. That's going to be it for our first race, but let's go through our results today. As we said, Dylan Scott, your winner in the end. It wasn't the biggest of margins, though. Bolton kept him honest. It was about 2.5 seconds to the end. Chad Duncan slipped back a little bit by the end of the race, but still a solid 3rd. Matt Steele managed to finish 4th with Federico Del Toro in P5. That was Dustin Heindl 6th and Mark Rondeau in 7th. Robert Leclerc will come home in 8th today. That takes us to the GT4 class, where Christopher Marciniak opens up the season with a win. John Momeyer in 2nd was then followed by Garamani. Larry Haas did, in fact, get a time penalty for his black flag, and that slots him back into 4th, unfortunately. But on the bright side of things, we have Dylan Scott ready to chat with us here today. Let's see what the victor thinks about how this race went. Dylan, you started from third, and it looked like you were not interested in wasting any time. That was an ambitious move at the start.
Yeah, I got a good jump at the green light. Made it alongside, put it 3 wide. I thought, pretty sure Michael was loving that. Being on pole, being in the middle, 3 wide. I thought I'd make it exciting for him. But yeah, great jump. They were all under control into turn 1. Beautiful, over under by Michael. Was happy to sort of pull in behind him for much of the race, wait for an opportunity, which presented itself, and decided to, hey, let's make this fun. Hopefully it makes the broadcast. We'll go around the outside into turn 1. So it was kind of fun. I enjoyed it. Michael drove a great race. Everyone else was running pretty good too, and so I really enjoyed it.
Well, and I even mentioned that the attempt at the start of the race was on the inside. So I was kind of curious if the move to the outside was maybe in response, saying, well, if that didn't work, maybe this will.
Yeah, no, it was just, I was on the inside for obviously the start for the green flag. My line was more through the middle of the front straight down to that turn, as opposed to going wide like a lot of the other guys were trying to break in a straight line. I saw it coming up. Michael obviously defended to the inside, as you would do. I figured, hey, let's have some fun. Hopefully enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I figured, let's go around the outside, see if it works. Why not? Got to give it a go, right?
Exactly. Now, last season, you kind of hit your stride in the middle of it with some podiums and some wins. You're starting things off. Is this a new leaf for you? Are you already looking forward with, much brighter outlook?
Yeah. So season 1, I don't know if you guys remember, I mentioned a few hiccups that were kicking me out of the race or, interrupting my race mid-race. Those podiums that you talk about were when I finally figured out what they were, and then I got onto a bit of a run of running a lot better than I had been, and not having the hiccups that were sort of taking me out. And then unfortunately I had to miss a few races with family commitments, so I couldn't make the whole season. But I was hoping to run up front. I'm hoping to be up front and stay up front. This car is going to require a lot more discipline than I normally have. You cannot push it as hard as the RSR. The tire model requires a lot more discipline. So, I'm trying to race smart. That's why pulling in behind Michael at the beginning, just sitting behind him, saving tires, saving fuel, waiting for the opportunity to pass. It's all part of a master plan, not mine, probably someone else's. I'm not smart enough to do that, but yeah, it's all part of the plan.
Well, it looked like a clever drive to us today. Congratulations on the win.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Shout out to my kids, Nico, Luca, Rora. Love you guys.
That was Dylan Scott, your winner here today in the GT3 class. Meanwhile, winner in the GT4s was Christopher Marciniak. Ozzy has caught up with him.
Yeah, Christopher Marciniak, winner in GT4s, taking that Cayman around the Nurburgring Grand Prix circuit fastest. Chris, we know that you got some experience from the off-road side of things, but it looks like you're pretty good on the on-road side as well.
Yeah. I've got a bunch of stage rally in 2-wheel drive. So switching to race cars mid-rear, still same car rotation and car control, but definitely trying not to take the rally line as you come out of the first turn there.
Yeah. So pole position by a pretty convincing margin as well. How were you feeling heading 3 wide into that first corner?
I was feeling like it was going to be like last time's race, Red Bull Ring, and I was just trying to stay clear. But I knew I had some extra room, so just kind of saw some braking early, went a little deeper, and then figured I'd see where I ended up when I rounded the corner, and was able to tuck in and sneak out of there.
Yep, and ended up in the lead of the race. After that, tell us about your race. Was it more or less about finding that consistent rhythm? How was it racing without pace notes?
Yep. Tough. Yeah. Definitely takes a bunch more to get the track in. If you have any sort of photographic memory, it certainly helps, but I do not. So I've got to definitely do the track a bunch. And yeah, dialed it in and tried to be consistent. Was still setting 205s, 206s towards the end. That's exactly what I wanted. And only had one little bobble through the chicane. So definitely looking to looking to do that for the first race out of the second season.
Absolutely. What a great way to start the season, Christopher Marciniak. Congratulations for the victory. And if you have anything to say to your supporters, to your fans, or anyone else out there, feel free to do so.
Sure. Well, as always, I'd love to thank my co-driver and wife, Christine, always supporting me. And then the POC guys, everybody that volunteers to help out, to set this up, to do timing and scoring and posts and is on the Discord and helping out. POC's been really great. And definitely I'm going to try to get some more competitors into the sim.
Yeah. Congratulations, Chris. What a great run. And thank you for the interview. Go and enjoy it.
Thanks so much.
So our victor in the GT4 class, then going to be followed up by second place in the GT3s, Michael Bolton. As Michael, it looked like you were doing your best to hold back Dylan Scott. He eventually found his way through. Was it a frustrating race, or are you happy? How are you feeling?
It was good to start on the podium for sure, in P1, but a little bit of a bobble into turn one. I thought I could keep it. Had a little bit too much wing this race, and got to give it to Dylan. He kept the pressure on and had a good pit stop, so have to get him on the next one.
No doubt. And in fact, that next one going to be another very classic track, not that physically far away from the Nurburgring here. How are you at Spa?
Love Spa. Love that track. So much fun in the sim. Johnson and I have done tons of laps there, so I'm looking forward to bringing it, and I think BJ will be back, so we should have a good turnout and hopefully put on a good show.
New season, you guys have switched over to the GT3R. We were hearing Dylan saying that the tire takes quite a bit of managing on this one. Is that your impression? How do you feel about this compared to the GTE?
100%. I mean, the new tire model is great, but I was starting to feel some struggling tires that were crying out for help towards the end, and I thought maybe pit early, try to do an undercut, get some get some of that temp out of the tires. And yeah, these tires are really tough to manage, so that's something that's going to be on my list to work on for sure.
Well, still, like you said, it's a great way to start things off, coming home with a podium. Valuable points. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's great chatting with you guys, and huge shout out to my lovely wife Gabby and our pups and my family. So thank you guys so much.
That was second place, Michael Bolton. We got one more second place to talk to. That'll be John Momeyer, as Ossian has got up with him.
Yep, John Momeyer, second place here in the opening race of the season in the Cayman class. John, you had a great battle there with Larry Haas. We were watching and enjoying quite a bit of it. Tell us about it from your perspective.
Oh, that was fantastic running with Larry. I think when we started 3 wide going down into turn 1, and for the first couple laps there, that was fantastic. I got away from him a little bit. He caught me back up, and man, he spun in front of me, and that just then it turned into a time trial race a little bit.
Yep, and speaking of time trials, 0.4 of a second between you two in qualifying. So you are quite a close bunch. Are you expecting that ding-dong battle, so to speak, between you two continue all the way throughout the season, or do you have an ace up your sleeve?
No, I think it's going to be a battle. I think we got a couple guys on vacation, Adam and Alan, and a few other guys that'll be back in the weeks to come, and they usually get up there and race right along with us.
Yep. One more quick question. We are looking at your fantastic wine red livery, really. It says Fear the Fork. Tell us about that.
That is for ASU. I've got a couple kids there that graduated from ASU, my son and my daughter both, and I've always followed ASU. My grandfather used to take me to the games when I was a kid, and so we've been lifelong fans, and glad to drive the fork around.
Yep. I see what you did there. As a European, I would be almost duty-bound to remind you of the pronunciation, but I won't do that this time because it works so well. Thank you very much, John. A pleasure talking to you. And if you have anyone you'd like to say thank you to, then feel free to do so.
Oh, I got to thank all the volunteers, of course, and reach out again to the Kravigs. They lost Dawn. We had a memorial this weekend. It was fantastic. Thanks for all the POC guys that showed up and showed their support. And, of course, my wife and kids and you guys. You guys do a great job commentating these things. Really appreciate it. And starting to do some commentating for our actual racing, live stream racing coming up in Laguna Seca as well. We're looking forward to that.
We sure are too. Thank you for your time, Sean, and go and enjoy that second place.
Thank you.
And that's going to wrap us up for tonight. So, again, we want to thank our sponsors before we head out, which includes Porsche, there is no substitute, and Top Gun MG, helping financial advisors be the best of the best. Thanks to the team today as well, Christian, Ozzy, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a moment. Like we said, we'll be at Spa next time. That'll be Monday, July 28th. At 10 p.m. Eastern. But as far as here on GSRC, we have the Grand Prix Legends at Portland coming up next weekend. Make sure and tune in to that for that fantastic new track here on the service. Be sure to check out our other broadcasts that are listed here. And until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.
This is iRacing.